It is really important to have this conversation right now. On the 3rd of June, the country marked a black day. Three train derailments, adding to one of the worst train accidents in Indian history. Now we understand the government has demanded a CBI inquiry to find out who was responsible for the train accidents that resulted in 275 deaths and over 1,000 people injured. We're left asking the question today of what went wrong. To help us answer that question, we have an expert joining us. Mr. Lalit Prasad Trivedi is the chairperson of the Rail Division in the Institution of Mechanical Engineering. He's also a railway expert, and he's been very kind to give us his time. Mr. Trivedi, thank you so much for joining us. To begin with, we know that the Coromandel Express changed route and moved into what is called the loop line instead of staying in the main line at very high speed. Now, for our audience, we must understand that the loop line and the main line. So there's a main line in which very fast trains move, and the loop line is where the train slows down and goes into a station. Now, the Coromandel Express was not meant to take the loop, it was meant to go straight, but it changed its course last minute, and there was already a train on the loop, and that was the train it hit. When its bogies then, 12 of its bogies derailed, there was another train coming on the other main line, which hit those bogies then. Mr. Trivedi, would you be able to tell us why a fast train like Coromandel Express might have changed direction and entered that loop line last minute?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, loop lines on the railways are designed because on Indian railways, we have freight trains and express trains running on the same route. Since express trains run at a higher speed and they run to a timetable, so whenever a goods freight train comes ahead of them, so they have to be given precedence. So in such circumstances, we admit the freight train in a loop so that the express train coming from the rear gets a through run at full speed. All the signals are interlocked, and so the question, and if a signal senses that a particular track is occupied, the system does not permit any other train to enter that line. So in this case, the system interlocking would, which is fail-proof, even if system fails, it turns the signal red. So unless somebody interferes with the SOP, with the kernel negligence or kernel intent, it can go wrong. To my understanding, there is a level crossing, road level crossing in the station. Between we call the signals, we have different names. So there are two signals which this train would have gone past. One is called up starter, second is called up advanced starter. So between up starter and up advanced starter, there is a level crossing. To control the road traffic coming on the tracks, there is a boom provided. That boom goes up and down. To when the gate is open, the boom goes up. When the road traffic is blocked for passing over the station, over the light tracks, the boom goes down and stops the road traffic. So, and this particular, there are two types of level crossing: interlocked and non-interlocked. This was a interlocked gate, and this boom, and that means it was connected with the interlocking system of the station. Apparently, there was some maintenance work was going on, and whenever any interlocked asset, whether it is a signal, it is a point, or a level crossing boom, if it is taken for repair or maintenance, a disconnection memo needs to be issued. That is the standard operating procedure. And then the trains are passed through a particular there's a way of working. Then the train is stopped at the signal, a memo is issued, authority to proceed is issued, and then only. So that procedure was not followed, and to capture apparently the wrong position, the point which permits the train either to the loop or to the main line, it has it's called reverse and normal operation. if it goes through the loop, it is called reverse. If it is on the main line, it is called the normal position of the loop. So the terminals through which this interlocking system captures the position was interfered with, and to give signal to the unauthorized to give signal to this express train in an unauthorized way. Now this could be either because of criminal negligence, or there could be a criminal intent, but certainly the whosoever was doing it, he was knowing the consequences of his action of this negligence or intent.
So, Mr. Trivedi, you're of the opinion that this was not human error, and it's a little technical for my audience, so I'm actually going to put it down to this. It is just not one mistake, but several layers of safety mechanism that was maybe altered with or tampered with. So you're saying that this was not human error, but it was an individual knowing full well what they were doing.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's everybody whenever he attends to an interlocked asset in an interlocked station, he knows that there is a certain SOP which has to be followed. There is a system of giving disconnection memo. There is a system of passing the train through that station in a particular manner. There is a very elaborate instructions are there on the subject, and whenever we call it OPT, so whenever such authority is issued, it comes along with the multiple instructions. All those were not followed, and the persons who were doing this job, they were aware of the consequences of a single mistake in not following the SOP, which can take place, and ultimately that has happened. So whether it was a criminal, either it was a criminal negligence or it was a criminal intent.
Mr. Trivedi, from my understanding, you're telling us that there would be criminal intent, which means someone knew they were putting thousands of lives at risk, and this was a wanton deed.
You see, when you are attending to anything on the main line, you see, and this particular track is fit for 130 kmph, and it's a very intensely used track of Indian Railways. Its sectional capacity is number of train which passes through this station are more than the capacity of the section. Uh, so the so anybody who undertakes maintenance work, or he does any work on the system, he knows fully well that unless he follows the laid down SOP for undertaking things, he may land the railway system in a disaster.
So, can this have been done by only one person? Would there have been any oversight by another person? If something can something so dangerous be executed by one person? This is almost something like an act of terror.
You see, in railways, there is whenever such sensitive works are carried out, there are multiple levels, multiple departments who control it. Like for in this case, there is a signal department, there is a operating department, the station master, the signalman, the level crossing men. So there are so many people, and the people who are patrolling, the officers, the senior supervisors who are there in the spot. So all of them, they work in tandem, they work in a team, and they know that a slight misdemeanor on their part can result in a catastrophe.
So then, if there's such a large number of people working in this on this matter, how could this have happened, Mr. Trivedi?
You see,
would there be need for collusion among more than one person?
It's whether it's a collusion, whether it is a negligence, whether it is that inquiry will reveal whether it. You see, if you look at the timing of the day, it was around 6 p.m. when the people wind up their work. So sometimes they are, you see, we have seen many accidents when the driver is approaching his headquarters station because he is in the process of winding up things. So this time of the day is such where people want to wind up and they finish the work fast, and in the process they might neglect to follow certain procedure, which is absolutely it has to be. There is no question of deviating from even one point of that procedure. And in the hurry of the winding up things, either by negligence or they have tampered with the points, and to ensure that the train doesn't suffer a detention, because to ensure that the fast trains like Coromandel, they don't lose time, they don't lose punctuality, they run on time. That pressure is always there on the mind of every railwayman. So it could be that also, that pressure also.
So there is now the government asking for a CBI inquiry. We do understand that the railways has a commissioner of railway safety as well who will do a very thorough investigation. Is it unusual for the CBI that normally investigates criminal cases to be investigating a rail accident?
You see, even earlier, in the earlier accident of Gaisal, which is supposed to be even worse than this one, which happened in West Bengal around in the turn of the century, around 99 or 2000. Exact date I don't remember. If initially the CRS inquiry was ordered, later on the inquiry by Justice Ray, who was the High Court judge who conducted the inquiry. Similarly, in the Godra accident, some CBI inquiry and the inquiry by non-railway experts was undertaken. So you see, while the technical portion of the inquiry, that nitty-gritty will be gone through by the CRS and the other railway officers who will be helping him. But if uh, if uh, if a case of as I said, that the wrong action is found, now whether that wrong action which resulted in this catastrophe was a negligence or was a criminal negligence or criminal intent, to differentiate between the two, maybe you need the help of other than railway officers.
Would you be able to explain to us why the Kavach system, which was meant to prevent exactly this, has not worked in this case?
Madam, I will not agree with you. Kavach system was not meant to cover these cases. You see, Kavach is for when the two trains are on the same track, so that they don't hit each other. In this case, the system was falsely system was falsely assuming that the Coromandel Express is going on the main line, and the goods train was on the loop line. So the question, so Kavach does not come in picture when the two trains are standing on two different lines. Even the Howrah Express, which was coming from the Bangalore Howrah Express, was coming on the third line. So even if all the Kavach, which was not there here this case, but even if it would have been there, it would have failed to prevent this accident.
So, would you say there have been accusations right now that as a country we've been paying attention to new trains but not enough attention to safety and not investing enough in safety? Is that a hypothesis that you would agree with?
You see, one thing is certain, that Indian Railway has works train in many sections more than their capacity, and sometimes the traffic blocks which are needed for the undertaking maintenance are not available. In fact, the CAG's report also points out this thing, that the traffic department does not permit the blocks. It's a fact of life. The maintenance engineers, they do suffer non-availability of traffic blocks because there is a pressure to meet the traffic volume which is there on hand, and also at the same time to undertake maintenance. But you see, that is a general statement and general way of looking at things. But in this particular case, it's a violation of the SOP and nothing else.
But would it be fair to assume that we need to have checks and balances put in place so this sort of violation of SOP, even by one or more individual, doesn't result in the kind of loss of life that we have witnessed?
Yeah, certainly. We actually, for this purpose only, there is a system of generating exceptional report. You see, every day such unusual incidents keep taking place. In fact, there is a need to for the higher level of data analytics, use of AI to capture this multiple failures which normally take place, and because they do not result in any catastrophe, because in 99% cases they are covered up, and they do not cause any visible harm to the system, so they get unnoticed. But the field inspections by the officers, field inspections by the inspectors, and the data analytics has to be gone through. So that you see that there are no two opinions about it.
There is also right now a few questions that have been raised by the leader of the Congress party, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, who used to be Railways Minister himself. One of the things he has raised is that the Railways has 3 lakh vacant posts right now. And a lot of the loco pilots are overworked and exhausted, and the government has not filled these posts, and that is causing a certain amount of strain on the manpower. Do you agree with that statement?
It's. I'll not agree with in a general way. You see, the issue is that there are many pockets in the railways where there is overstaffing. In fact, if you compare Indian Railways manpower ratio with the advanced like Deutsche Bahn of Germany or Chinese railway or other railway systems, the manpower ratio per kilometer of track on Indian railway is on the very high side. In fact, uh, I had done a study, and as per my study, about a couple of years back, Indian Railways had 12 lakh people, and I felt that for the efficient running, 6 to 7 lakh people are needed. So, what is required is not filling up these posts, but reskilling, upgrading the skill so that the staff, we have to lay more emphasis on the training aspect because there's a lot of pockets of surplus people. So, those staff have to be shifted and redeployed to the areas where the safety is required.
Mr. Trivedi, we have people right now on this chat, on our video, saying that I'm never going to take a train again. I feel very nervous about sitting in a train after this accident. What is your response to those people across the country now who are feeling unsafe and unsure about using the Indian Railways?
I can one thing I can make it say with confidence that railway continues, in my personal opinion, to be the one of the most safest system. And I joined Indian Railways in 1983, and over in last now it's almost 40 years, and the number of accidents, number of unusual incidents which we used to face in our younger days, the level of sophistication, level of safety is much higher than what it used to be. Certainly, immediate impact of such a major disastrous accident is there, but I don't think there is any reason for losing faith in the system as such.
I mean, just to put this into perspective, this is just the year 2021, and I'm looking at the NCRB data, Mr. Trivedi. India suffered 17,993 railway accidents in 1 year, resulting in 16,431 deaths. We have 49 railway accidents reported every day, resulting in 45 deaths every day. Which part of the world would these numbers be acceptable in, other than here?
You see, you see, when you give these figures, basically these figures include the trespassers. You see, our 78,000, 68,000 kilometer long track is largely unfenced. Cattle, they stray on our tracks, nowhere else they do. uh, at many places people make unauthorized crossings on the track. So 80 to 90% of the numbers which you have said are those who are using railway track, maybe because of lack of infrastructure in their village around it. I am not saying, or maybe because they are grazing the cattle around, with their field across. But the uh, number of railway passengers who travel in the train, that number is not even 5%, 1%, 1 or 2% of what the number you have quoted. Most of these are trespassers which get run over by the incoming train because they are walking on the track with earphones in their ears. So these are not the, or our own railway staff who do not follow the SOP of doing maintenance on various assets, and they get run over. But they are not the railway passengers who have died in that large number.
All right. Mr. Trivedi, my last question, and this is again something that is being raised at this point. A few years ago, the government decided to merge the railway budget with the general union budget. Has the railway in any way suffered from the lack of attention, the lack of funds after that move?
In fact, uh, we have been historically spending about 30 to 40,000 crore rupees per annum earlier. After the merger of the railway budget with the general budget, the allocation for the railway has gone up. Yeah, this year there is a extra budgetary support of 1.2 lakh crore rupees for Indian Railways. which was never heard of when we were running our own independent budget. And so I think that, and it doesn't happen in any other country. It's a part of the government wing. Why it should have a separate budget? So, in fact, the merger of the budget, railway budget with the general budget has done a lot of good to the railway by making more funds available for the maintenance and infrastructure work.
But is it not true, Mr. Trivedi, that the lion's share of that budget is going to new trains and new projects, and not enough is going for maintenance and safety? There is a CAG report that also says that a large number of accidents are being caused by derailments from the rails.
You see, I have been the general manager of a major zone of the railway, and what I can say for sure that the fund availability, even for the maintenance activity, was much better than what I used to face in my earlier days. And moreover, the new assets which are being created, we had earlier wooden bodied coaches, plain bearing. Now we have a roller bearing. We have a 60 kg track. So the maintenance requirement of the new assets are also lost. Like just have you seen, if you have
Seem to have lost our connection there with Mr. Lalit Trivedi. Mr. Trivedi was taking us through the work that is being done on the railways right now, specifically to do with the railways budget. Just to recap for our audience, after the terrible, catastrophic accident that has taken place in Orissa, the Railways Board and the government has requested a CBI inquiry into the matter. Normally, there is a commissioner of safety for the railways who does a thorough investigation, not just looking into the data records, but also speaking to eyewitnesses to find out what really happened, what they saw, what they heard. But in this case, there's been a request for the CBI as well. We've got Mr. Trivedi back with us. Mr. Trivedi, sorry, we got disconnected. You were talking about the allocation of funds, even though we have an increase, you said 1.2 lakh crore rupees in funds. The allocation of funds between new projects and new trains and safety and maintenance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you see the maintenance, the track renewal. Let's say track renewal. Although while it is a track renewal is still not as much as is required, but still it is substantially more than what it used to be. In the signaling, when I joined East Central Railway as general manager, most of the assets were with mechanical signaling. When I signed off in 2021, the electronic signaling had been introduced in most of the places. Even in this Balasore station where this accident has happened, it had the state-of-the-art solid state interlocking system. So the quality of the asset has improved. Earlier, most of our LHB coaches, trains are stainless steel coaches, which do not get corroded. Earlier, we had the cordless steel coaches, which used to get corroded. We have all air brake staff. There is no vacuum staff. So we have come a long way in the upgradation, and particularly the phenomenal allocation which we are receiving. The railway budget is now almost, including capex plus opex, is about say 70-80 billion dollar. It's in fact, if at all there is a problem in spending, because the organization which was not used to be spending such a large sum, they are finding ways and means now. They are getting adjusted to this large amount of funds. So I don't feel that the fund is a problem in railways anymore.
All right, Mr. Trivedi, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time and explaining to our audience what happened really in Odisha when we had that terrible accident on Friday night that costed us 275 people, families shattered, homes shattered, and injured over 1,100 people in that accident. The government is asking, of course, for who is responsible, but one also hopes that there will be measures put in place to make sure something like this never ever happens again. Thank you for watching.